Hey, what's up guys, Alex here, and today I want to give you one very quick pro tip on how to get your orchestral mixes to sound professional. And I'm making this tutorial because I often get asked by you guys, wow Alex, your tracks sound so clear and professional, what are you doing in the mixing to make them sound so good? And yeah, I want to answer this question because it's very important that I do, because there is a misconception about mixing that beginners tend to have. So yeah, I'm going to give you this simple truth that will make you understand, the reality of how to get a professional sound. But first, we're going to check out these 20 seconds of a track that I'm working on. So my question now is, does this sound professional to you? And if it does, so let me explain to you how I managed to write stuff that sounds like this. So the funny thing about this track is that it's not even mixed yet. Yet it sounds quite professional, quite good and clear. And yeah, it's not the best mix ever, but it's still quite good. But why is that? Like, the reason why ties to the truth I want to tell you about, which is, if you want your tracks to sound professional and amazing, you should not rely on mixing alone for that, And I know it sounds strange, and I'm not saying mixing is not important, but I'm saying mixing is not the fundamental thing. The fundamental thing is arrangement. And it took me 2 years to understand this truth and really appreciate it. But like in the beginning, because in the beginning I used to write, crappy tracks like all beginners do, and I used to think, wow, my tracks do not sound amazing, but it must be because of the mixing and the mastering. I'm not able to mix professionally and master professionally, so that's the thing. And I spent lots of time and hours into mixing my tracks with, all kinds of tools and, compressors, exciters, multiband compressor, and all that good stuff. And the end result was never good because the arrangement was not good. And nowadays, I do quite the opposite. I spend a lot of time into learning and into making my arrangements sound professional and clear even prior to the mix, so that when I come to the mixing stage and the mastering stage, there's very little work I need to do for the track to really shine, because it's already good enough, So in this case, what I would do at the end of this track is just balance the volume by moving, these sliders here a little bit, and balance the panning and use the reverb to place the instruments inside the room, like I explained in the reverb tutorial. But that's pretty much it. I wouldn't spend too much time into actual mixing because the arrangement sounds amazing on its own. So again, I'm not saying mixing is useless, but you get the point. You cannot do the opposite instead, where your track sounds like shit and you turn it into gold with mixing. So the reason why that is easily explained. So I'm going to use the example of baking a cake. I know this sounds weird and not related to music, but actually, it's pretty much the same process. So let's say you want to bake a nice strawberry cake for yourself. Yum. So the thing you do is you go to the grocery store and you pick your ingredients. You pick your milk, the strawberries, the flour, the eggs, and all that good stuff. So once you have that, you go back home and you choose the quantities and which ingredients to use for your recipe, You do not want maybe too many strawberries and too little mix, so you need to make sure that the quantities are correct, so when you prepare the cake mix, it's going to blend in together nicely and give you a nice substance. So once you did that, you pick your ingredients and the quantities and you pair them correctly, you put them all into a bowl and you start to work into creating the cake mix with those ingredients. And after that, once you have the cake mix, you put it in the oven and you let it bake for a few minutes, and bam, you have your cake. And if you've done all the things correctly, the cake is going to have a nice taste. It's going to be it's going to be crispy and all that good stuff. But here's the thing: the main, the most important things, which is the taste of the cake, is going to be determined by the first two phases. The phase where you went to the store and you picked the ingredients, and the phase where you chose the quantities of the different ingredients and paired them together and chose what ingredients to use and what to leave out. So, in terms of music, this translates to, like, when you go to buy the ingredients, this translates to deciding which sample libraries to use. So, of course, if you use cheap ingredients in your cake, the taste is going to be altered negatively. Your cake is not going to taste as good and it's not going to be as healthy. Same thing, if you only use cheap libraries that, I don't know, maybe cheap sound fonts you got for free on a forum that have no, real recordings into them, your songs are going to be negatively impacted by those sound fonts, If you only use free libraries that you got off a forum, again, from a guy who recorded, violins in his basement with no professional gear, no professional knowledge, and no professional programming into that sample library, of course, when you write music with that sample library, it's not going to sound as good as the music of someone who writes orchestral music using very professional libraries like Metropolis Arc, And the reason is that, Metropolis Arc and all those libraries that cost a few $100s are recorded by professional, programmed by professional, and, the players who are recorded in the libraries are professional players themselves, and all these libraries are recorded in, real orchestral venues. So the end result, like the library, like Metropolis Arc, when you use it compared to using a sound font or a free library you downloaded off a forum, you're going to have a much better result with no effort, because the core ingredient that you use, the core ingredient that you bought at the store, is much higher in quality. It's going to have a nicer taste or sound, and it's going to be even easier to work with, So, first thing, pick your libraries nicely. And I know orchestral libraries are quite expensive, but if you want to make music your career, if it's the career of your dreams, it is worth investing into, And, I know it's quite an investment, but after you make it and you start to use those libraries, you're going to notice a huge leap in quality in your sound already. And so after that, there's the second step, where you take all the ingredients and you choose the quantities, you choose how to pair them together and stuff. And that's pretty much, that compares to the instrumentation and the orchestration phase of your arranging. So let's say, for example, you have an arrangement where you put a shitload of brass, like you have bass trombone, trumpets, French horn, tubas, and all that good stuff. So you have the full brass, the full brass ensemble into your track. And then in the string ensemble instead, you only have cellos. So of course, if you write an arrangement with that instrumentation, when you reach the mixing stage, the strings are not going to be much hearable compared to the brass, maybe, because the brass section that you picked is so broad, it will be covering all of the frequency spectrum. Instead, the string, since you only picked the cellos, it's going to only, feel a very short range of frequency spectrum. So when you play, when they are playing together, the whole brass section and the cellos, of course, you're not going to hear the strings, you're not going to hear the cellos. And turning up the volume is not going to be enough, because you're still only going to hear the cellos in a short amount of frequencies. A short range of frequencies compared to the brass, which you're going to hear in the full range. So here's one of the limitations about mixing. You cannot broaden the frequency response of an instrument with mixing. You can to a certain degree, but after a while it starts to become unnatural and creates mud in the mix. So what you need to do is to, if you pick your instrumentation wrong, you need to go back to the arrangement phase and make sure, for example, that the whole string ensemble is used, in such a way that you feel the whole frequency spectrum without having to create strange mixing, noises with strange effects that you put into the cello to make it more broad, you know. Just write using a more balanced instrumentation, and yeah, also try to use instruments that fit well together. You cannot, like, if you make a cake, you cannot pair, for example, I don't know, milk with oranges. It will be kind of weird, I think. And, you know, there will be a taste overlap, which is not good. And it's the same thing with certain instruments. If you make them overlap, they might compete for space into the mix, and the end result would be strange peaks into the frequency range of the mixing, which would make the whole mix a little bit less pleasant to hear. And during the mixing phase, you can fix this, but it's going to take time, and it's not going to be the same result. It's not going to be the same thing as having an instrumentation where all the instruments do not fight each other, but rather cooperate into creating something amazing, like explained in many of the other tutorials I made. So instrumentation is important for that in terms of quantity and in terms of which instruments you use together. Also, another thing which is very important to have a good arrangement is orchestration itself. You know, use different articulations, try to write realistically, you know, by using all the different tips that I mentioned in other tutorials. And, you know, the thing is that there is not one easy key or one secret key that will unlock a professional sound, which makes the title of this video a little bit of a clickbait. But it's really important that you get this. Like, the way to get a professional sound is not to uncover one secret trick, but it's actually to uncover many little tricks. It's as if you were in a video game, and, you know, the way to unlock the secret weapon, like the ultimate weapon that will make you a badass, is to do many different things, you know. And after you've done all those different things, after you unlocked all the different skills in your character, of course your character isn't going to be this massive level 99 warrior with all those skills that will kick the ass of every monsters, of all the monsters. So with music, it's pretty much the same. Like, if you want to have a badass sound and stuff, you need to learn many different little techniques and skills that, when put together, they will, you know, enhance your sound like crazy. And that's why in all of my tutorials, I always try to fill you guys with a lot of information and a lot of details, and I always talk a lot because it's really, really important to learn many of the different truths about, you know, composing, arranging, and producing to really sound like a professional. And it might take years, and that is just how it is, you know. But it's not like, if you start writing music with by keeping in mind that you need to focus on making your arrangement sound professional on their own, that is going to shorten your approval, you know. Because I see a lot of people who are focusing on mixing and mastering alone, and they neglect the arranging phase so much. They neglect instrumentation, orchestration, and all the good stuff, while those are the things that are going to make your track sound amazing. Those are the things that are going to make your cake tasty and healthy, and make you want to eat more of those cakes again, you know, make people want to eat more of it again. So I know this tutorial wasn't short as I promised, but yeah, there's lots of things that you need to understand about music production and stuff to make your track sound professional. So if you want to, you know, learn how to arrange better and all that good stuff, check out the rest of the tutorials on this channel, because again, those are filled with details, so many details and tips which seem insignificant but are really important. So go check out those tutorials if you haven't already, and do take notes of what I say, and especially experiment those things I explain in your tracks immediately, so that you can learn really and really earn value out of all the things I explain. And also check out, you know, courses and, I don't know, other tutorials from people who really put in the details in their explanation, explain you why things work the way they do, because those are the explanation you should make treasure of, you know? Not the tutorials where they show you, oh, we're going to make this sound and that's it, and they do not even explain to you why that sound came about. Just, like, check out the tutorials that explain you the mindset behind what they show you. And a good course on this would be, like, the one I always mention, which is Evanon's cinematic course. And that too is an investment to get, I understand it. But again, guys, if you want to make orchestral music, like if you want to make music your career, you need not to be cheap on it. Invest on it as much as you can, money and time, of course, without ruining your life, but really try to invest on it because it's going to make your path much shorter. It's going to enhance the quality of your music so quickly and so effortlessly. So definitely consider that. But yeah, that's it for this long tutorial, which was supposed to be short, and I'm sorry again, but I hope you guys learned a lot in this one. And yeah, if you have constructive criticism and all good stuff, let me know in the comments, or if you have questions, just ask in the comments because I always answer those. And yeah, that's it for today. Alex out.